I remember before the transplant, my mother asked me if I will have big scars, and I said I don't know. And then I realized that I don't care, and I didn't know why until I saw them after, like at that time, because I was so scared of looking, because I was all the time thinking I might go back to the hospital. Like I need to take care of myself. I like even the way I moved, right? So when I looked at them and I just felt like, oh, they're so pretty. I love them, because they're just were signs that I survived. That's so cliche to say, but it was true. I felt at that moment, and I was thinking, oh, thank God, my tummy is getting flatter. And I was like, how dare you? This body has like done so much, and you still don't appreciate it.
Every L podcast. Every L podcast.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Matt Brown, and you're listening to the
Every L podcast.
Each episode, we'll have a different guest come on and talk about when life hands you an L, is it really a loss or is it something else?
Because not every L's a loss.
So sit back, relax, or do whatever you gotta do to get comfortable as we get into this. Let's go. Welcome everyone to another episode of Every L podcast, where we have different guests come on and talk about things of experience, and when they didn't go the way they wanted to go, how do they feel about it? How do they navigate those scenarios? Because when things are going well, oh my gosh, it's going swimmingly well. When they're not going well, it feels like you've got lead tied to your ankles and you're struggling to swim, let alone tread water. And those feelings are overwhelming and can make a person doubt their purpose, doubt why are they even born? Why are they even here? I hope through hearing these many different conversations from many different people, you understand not necessarily where you're at right now is where you're going to reside forever and a day. Sometimes things can feel like it's going to be your life, but ultimately it could just be a blip. It could just mean a new beginning. It could mean something else, or it could just be a giant L. And the beautiful thing about this platform is the fact that I'm not here to tell a person what they did or did not go through. However, hear their story and hear how it unfolded and how they navigated it, so that you, the listener, and anyone else that you may know who may resonate with this story can understand they're not alone in their journey. We're all very similar, but we're all very different in terms of how we deal with things. So it's embracing the differences while also acknowledging the similarities. I have a cliche alert, fantastic guest. Her name is Sabreen. Did I pronounce that correct?
In an English way, yes.
Okay, let's do it with the accent. How am I meant to pronounce it? I'm sorry.
So it's an Arabic name. The pronunciation is Sabreen.
Sabreen.
Close enough.
Oh, close enough. Wow. Okay. Do you know what? You know what? I'll take that. I'll take that. I'm trying to be inoffensive here and respect his name and its pronunciation. So I think that's it. That I'm happy to accommodate. Any more
Thank you.
syllables, I might just pass altogether. But I'm working on that. I'm trying to be more mindful.
Hmm.
Like my name's Matt. That's a straight simple. However,
It's
when you
Matt,
have
not
to roll your
Matthew.
tongue, you call me Matthew. I'm locking off this interview. Just throwing it out there.
I'm sorry. I just asked for the full name.
that will be an L. There's no coming back from that one at all. No.
No.
So yes, I have this wonderful human being. We crossed paths because my very first guest on this podcast was her very first guest on her podcast. And we just started talking, and she's a super cool individual who has high hopes and aspirations, and she's well on truly on course to achieve great and wonderful things. And she already is. She may not feel that way. She may not have people speak it back to her based on the impact her podcast and things in general done to them. But I know she's changing lives through what she's doing and the consistency she's bringing. And it's just such an honor to meet someone who's so wholesome. She's super intelligent. She's just, I've had very limited interaction with her, but it's just one of those energy exchange where you just don't feel bad vibes. You just feel someone who's just honest, humble, and just hungry to do the best they can. And I'm here for it. I'm here to support, here to help, and here to hear her story in terms of what she wants to share. But before we go on, I just want her to introduce herself in a way she sees fit before we discuss her first L. How are you doing?
I am good. Thank you, Matt. This was great. You made me kind of fell in love with myself, which is one of the goals. Thank you for this amazing introduction. I am doing well, and I'm very happy to be here today and honored, kind of like a little bit nervous to tell the story, which I told before, not in all details. But here we go again. I am Sabreen. I am Sudanese-Canadian, and I like to call myself these days a writer, which is something I have tried to deny for decades since I was a child. So I'm owning it nowadays. I'm also a podcaster. I have a podcast, a very new one, which I love dearly. I'm also my daily job is an instructor therapist, which means since I live in Canada, for anyone who's not living here, it means I do therapy for autistic children for their daily life, whatever goes depending on the case. So yeah, I'm also a sister, a daughter, a friend, a best friend, a colleague, all of those. Yeah, that's me.
And she's got a wonderful dimple, singular, not as good as 2 or 4, but we do what we got, right? Yeah, just saying. Not like me and my son, whatever. But hey, at least you try. Although I'm not gonna lie, when you did rattle off like your daughter, your sister, I'm like, you're not dying. I don't need to go and get reef for you here. I don't need to know what these different things are that you are. It's calm, it's good. And you are a super intelligent person because you're also studying still as well, right?
Yes, I have a degree in neuroscience and mental health with a minor in psychology. Before it, I went to medical school back home, which I will touch on. And right now, I'm doing a graduate certificate in autism and behavior sciences, which relates to my job. Basically, I just wanted to know more about what I'm doing. And yeah, those are the things I'm doing for my academic life area. The reason I introduce all of this is because 2 days ago, I heard a podcast about being workaholic, and I've always thought I am, right? But you described me better. You said, I love this because self awareness is not just you knowing about yourself, it's also knowing how people are seeing you. You said hungry for doing things, right? I think that's who I am. I don't think I'm a workaholic because that person who was described people who are workaholic, she said that workaholic people feel kind of like vacation depression because they define themselves in one role in life, the job, right? But you need to define yourself through all these roles in your life because you are all of these things. So I'm a daughter to someone, I'm a sister to brothers, and
That makes sense.
yeah. So, friend and a best friend, I'm doing all of that. So I'm all of this. And the reason that you need to be conscious about that is sometimes you're not going to have all of these together, right?
Very true.
Sometimes one of those roles is going to be missing. Let's say I move to another city, I'm not close to my family. It's going to be hard on me because I love my siblings more than anything in the world. Like they're my priority at the moment, right? So not having that would probably have an effect on me, not having them close to me. But I know that there are other things in life as well. Or at the moment that I made the move, it's for a reason, right? So I think it's important to know who you are in that sense. Or I think what I heard just shifted my mind into that. That's why it's how I introduce myself.
No, I'll take that, and I'm happy that you found a way that made you feel better about the attributes that you're showcasing. So yeah, hats off to you and keep doing you until such time that you need to adapt, change, grow, and evolve. So your first L that you said you would like to talk about is chronic illness. Now, I have a little bit of an insight about this because you did speak about it with your first guest. So I do know about it. However, for those that do not know, please go back to where it all began and explain your journey from where it began, what happened. Yeah, please share.
Okay. Here's why I consider this as an L at the beginning, right? It is because I was a newcomer to Canada, or this is what Canadians call newcomers. Those are the people who come as immigrants to the country. And so I just arrived a month to the country filled with so many hopes, like everyone else, right? You're in North America, right? You came here to accomplish things. And I was also fairly young, like I was 21. And I just left med school after I made it to med school, which was not easy journey to go in there, right? So I decided, but the reason for leaving was the decision was clear for me why I wanted to live there and restart from scratch here, right? So the last thing that I needed to hear, you're sick. And no one who will at that young age want to hear that. I'm pretty sure. So what happened was I was suffering, still suffering from migraines all my life since I was like 9 years old, 7 years. I don't remember the age where I was not actually having migraines, and it would last for days and days and days. So when I arrived here, my father said, well, you're in Canada. Let's figure out what's happening, right? And to say that I did not try to figure out what's happening is a lie, because all my life I've done all the tests, everything, everything. My brain, my stomach, my diabetes, they checked everything and everything looked fine. Just low iron, they would say, right? So I come here, I go to my family doctor. I found myself a family doctor. So when you are new immigrant, everything in the country is new. Um, you're you're starting below the scratch. It's not starting from scratch. No, it's below the scratch. And to add, so I have no support system whatsoever. I'm 21, and my father could not stay here. So, and I decided I'm going to stay here with my sister who was a teenager. She was 17 years old at the time, right? So it was her and me in this big country. We arrived in Toronto. So I go to the family doctor who is Sudanese as well. Um, and he's like, let's do a check for everything. If it's just to make sure you're fine. And everyone was like, you're fine, you're young, which is one of the most annoying things, or like saying that kept happening in my life. You're young, you're fine. You're young, you'll be fine. You're young. So yeah, we did the check. I was called by the doctor, who told me, listen, something is wrong with your kidneys, and it has been wrong for years. He said the doctors you've been visiting are stupid, or they didn't care to check on what's happening, because this is not something new. And chronic illnesses, especially autoimmune and kidney diseases, are very silent. They don't announce themselves until it's too late. So, of course, I was in denial and, took some medications and side effects, emergency rooms. No one believes what I'm going through because I'm young, and I'm probably just complaining because of the pain. It's too much, I can't handle it, etc. I was handling just fine in my opinion. It's just no one was believing me. Everyone was just dismissal. Eventually, a doctor said nothing is wrong with me. I went back home. The original specialist I was referred to by my doctor insisted on me coming after I refused going, saying I'm fine. So eventually I went and I did the test. She said, you have to do a biopsy. And I remember that day when she said, you have to do a kidney biopsy. because the last module I studied in med school was kidney. I left the term. The last test I had was on kidneys, right? I just found it very, I don't know. It was just like, what's happening? You know, it is, I don't know if it was a sign. I don't know if it was ironic. It's just, I have no words. At that time, I didn't have any words. And I was just in denial all the time. And when she said kidney disease, she gave me those papers to read on, and it gave me two options of kidney diseases. I don't remember the other one, but eventually what I got was IgA nephropathy, which is an autoimmune disease. They don't even know why it happens. It just happens. um, and I started, did a kidney biopsy. I didn't even have someone to take me out of the hospital. I had to, I didn't even tell the people that my sister was 17, not 18, because we didn't have anyone. We had some family friends, but I didn't want to bother them with that. Also, my character is someone who, when they receive any news, they have to sit with it. So telling someone, it just makes, and them talking about it is just going to distract my brain, right? Eventually, I did the kidney biopsy, and I remember my specialist calling me on the phone. It was a holiday. I don't remember the holiday. And she said, Sabreen, you have IgA nephropathy. We're going to start on prednisone. If anyone knows, prednisone is not a nice medication. And I remember let's go back before she tells me, it was when she gave me those papers. I remember sitting in a food court because I was hungry and thinking to myself, why? Because I did not have an easy life. I thought that's it. I came here to restart a new life, and I deserve this new life. I deserve this start. Why would I go through this again? I mean, not through this again, but why would I go through such a thing? I'm too young for this. I am, I didn't do anything. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I sleep a lot. Not a lot. Like I sleep the 7, 8 hours. It just didn't make sense in my head to be sick that age. And it's also the new identity, because I've always seen myself as a doctor, but now I'm the patient, and yeah, that happened. Chronic illness. And from the moment I got my medications the first time, it was the side effects. I don't remember how many times I visited the emergency. I don't remember everything, every like pain, but I remember the feelings associated with it. It was as if my body failed me. I always thought, yeah, you know, um, and I didn't have a good relationship with my body, to be honest, to begin with. So to have this on top, it was like the chair on the top, just not a good chair, right? Uh, yeah. Then things happened with the medications. It was those kind of immunosuppressive medication make you gain weight. You get like the moon face. You can't sleep at night. You're hungry. You would eat like a full meal. 2 hours later, you're hungry, right? Acne's over your body. Uh, the list just goes on. I remember the 6 months after I took that medication, I stopped looking in the mirror because I couldn't handle it. Like imagine a young woman won't look at herself in the mirror. That was like, I don't remember looking in the mirror at all. Like I just started because it was either me fixating on how I look and being angry about it, or just move on with my life. And I just wanted to move on. I didn't want to be stuck as the patient person who's not doing anything. And for me, I've always defined myself by success or achievements, right? That I was told their achievements, because I don't, like me right now, I see achievements differently. I told you this before. I said, if I paid my bill today, I paid my bill. And I'll be check mark. Yes, I remember to pay the bill. I reward myself for that. It might sound childish, but it helped me, right? So yeah, um, the chronic illness just kept going. No one prepares you for it, no matter how much they tell you to take care of yourself. They see you, they tell you the results, and I'm someone who knows the terminology, right? I know what they're talking about. I didn't spend a lot of time at school. It was like 3 years, but it's still, I'm aware, and it was my passion to become a doctor, right? So I was aware of everything they're telling me. I was aware when, they tell me, it's okay, we'll take care of you. Or just a smile, you know? And on the day that I knew, not I knew, on the moment I keep going back to sitting at the food court, asking myself, I just told myself I need to make a decision, which is I'm either going to be stuck by this and not do anything and focus on it, or move on with my life and do what I can do. Was it a good decision? I don't know. I don't look at it right now as a good decision, because I feel like I should have given myself the space to grieve what I was going through, but I did not. Yet, I don't like, I don't, I don't blame myself for it, because I didn't have the knowledge to deal with it, and I was alone, no guidance as well. And there was so much pressure um, from me. Also, beside not looking in the mirror, I stopped talking to people, because everyone I know back home and and by the way, I lived in many places, they just wanted to know what am I doing in Canada, right? And it's not that I'm not a complainer, I just did not know how to tell them what to say. Also, I don't like pity, right? No one does. No one does. So also, I am like genuine. I I at that age I did. Right now I know how to be diplomatic, but I don't go into it. I just like being myself, right? I just didn't know what to tell people. So I remember just taking my SIM card and break it. And we had a home phone. My dad used to call there. And, the closest person to me in life is my brother. He's like, how we say we have many soulmates? I don't know if you believe in that, but I do. But I see my brother as my soulmate, one of my friends as my soulmate, etc. So my brother, who's like, nowadays I'm in my 30s, so I say he's 1 year, 8 months younger than me. When we were kids, it was 2 years. Okay. So we went through a lot in life together, and he, I depend on him mentally and everything, and I wasn't able to tell him because he was finishing his bachelor degree back home. So yeah, he didn't know. I only called people by Skype, which was him and my father, and my mom would call at the home phone, right? So I didn't like, I remember, uh, so we don't have subways in Sudan. And before Sudan, I used to live in Dubai, what people call Dubai, but I was living in United Arab Emirates in the capital, Abu Dhabi. So over there, it's kind of bougie life. You take the taxi or you have a car. Public transportation, I think it became now, if you go back, nowadays they have public transportation. But back then, the taxes weren't that expensive. So to us over there, so it was fine, right? So when I came here, I was so into not talking to anyone that I would Google where I'm going by the subway, write it on paper. And if I literally, if I'm going any place, it's 1 hour, I leave 2 hours before. Of course, I got lost, but it was part of the adventure here in Toronto. And if you've been to Toronto, it's an amazing city at that time. So yeah, I had, it was hard, but I had fun on other things. Like I kept myself busy by telling myself I'm achieving what I need to achieve. I was still determined to go to med school, so I chose neuroscience as a major. But it was challenging with chronic illnesses. I by us failing classes, even though I'm an A student, that was not easy. That was a new identity too. I was failing classes, and I remember the first class I failed. I was like, how did this happen? I didn't know how it happened. But what I didn't realize, and it took me 2 years in neuroscience to figure out, is people with chronic illnesses need to be accommodated. I had no idea what I was up against. I was up against all the medications were making me forgetful, disoriented. Um, I had this lack of focus. It was as if I was drunk, which I don't know how drunk people feel, but that's I think how they feel, right? Um, I couldn't focus. Focusing was so hard on me, and I remember this statistic class. I understood everything in the class, but during the exam, I wasn't able to finish it because it was too long. And I genuinely thought that I'm stupid. I genuinely thought that I'm not up to neuroscience and I'm just losing it. Something's wrong with me. Until I talked to a social worker and she told me, nah, you need an extra hour because you're going to get tired during your exam. You need a room with less people in it so you don't, like, your brain is not functioning the same way. Um, yeah, I went to therapy and I had to do a list of what's important in my life. I wasn't taking care of myself because I was in a race against time. I was told that within 10 years I might get kidney failure. So in my head, it was I need to finish at least this degree before I get the kidney failure. Guess what? When I had the kidney failure and the kidney transplant, and I had a rejection at the hospital, and during the rejection, I had this night where I thought I'll die. I was so much pain. My body wanted to shock. At that moment, I didn't care that I had a neuroscience degree. I did not care that I was not a doctor, you know? It was just this moment where I was like, what was I doing? Yeah. So was this an L? I I don't like the pain associated with what I went through, but I appreciate it. I appreciate this journey.
It's fair enough. But that is just, yeah, it's a lot. But there are a few things that I just want to see if I can understand, because
Sure.
trying to envision the many different things you went through, the many different relationships you had, but wasn't able to communicate what you was going through and shouldering those burdens on your own while still trying to maintain a level that is unachievable now because of said medication, just feels like you're trying to juggle, but you're suddenly finding out one of your limbs ain't working. So yeah, have fun with that. Prior to, so you came to Canada when you was 21.
Yes.
Sister was in her teens.
17.
Yep. So you guys were staying together, family, friends, whoever it may be. You'd been ill since as long as you can remember, but no one had any idea, no exact knowledge as what you had going on with you. You went and saw a family doctor. Family doctor hooked you up and was like, yo, gonna have a full MOT. Found out, yeah, this ain't looking good. They're either lacking intelligence, let's be polite, or they couldn't be bothered, which either one of those is inexcusable realistically, because if you got that title, your job is to look after your patients, and whether they're studying to be a doctor or otherwise, look after your patient. You then go and get
Biopsy.
a biopsy. They then find out your kidney's not performing as it should do.
So, yes, I don't remember my kidney function diagnosis, probably 70% at that time. But what I have is an autoimmune disease, which means something is wrong with my immune system. My kidneys were functioning just fine. It's just the illness attacked my kidneys.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with the kidney function other than the fact it's being attacked by the body.
So would that mean that when you got ill from other, like a cold or flu or something like that, was it like a much worse as compared to, say, your siblings or other folk?
Yeah, because my immune system is aggressive.
Okay.
And that's what the doctor said. She said, your illness is very aggressive. And that's why I got a rejection. And uh,
But the rejection was a lot later though, wasn't it? That
it,
was
it was after I got the transplant. It was 4 days after the transplant. All the doctors. This is why I said I hate when they say you're young, you'll be fine. No, it's not you're young, you'll be fine. Look at the symptoms, look at the patient history. My history suggests that things might happen. So you need to be careful, right? Well, thank God, everything went fine after the rejection at the hospital. It wasn't like a huge rejection, it was like mid. They had like numbers for it. So I was in the mid section and they were able to, they were able to give me medications. They were harsh. I stayed extra 10 days, but I made it. I'm thankful. And now I'm like 2 years post transplant.
congratulations.
Thank you.
When you was diagnosed with your condition, you were still 21
I was 22.
and you was in denial about it initially, trying to live your life, I guess, like it never existed. It wasn't a thing. You're like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
You mentioned God. So I believe you're a woman of faith.
Mhm.
How did that impact your relationship?
With God?
Yeah.
Hmm. Such a good question. I love talking about God. So I trust God. That's what's keeping me going, right? So yes, I was in denial and I had to grieve and give myself that space. But one of the things that helped me in that moment, that moment sitting at the food court is such a crucial moment in my life. In that moment, when I said why, it felt disrespectful. to say why to me. Because in my life so far, as I say, it was not an easy life. I'm not. It's not in terms not easy where I'm coming from, poverty or anything or like abuse. No, it was just not easy in other aspects. And in each aspect that was not easy, or like people were like, you're going through a lot, I ended up finding that was the best thing that could have happened to me. And by that, and I don't know how to tell you this, I sit down at night. I love praying at night, and I pray for something, and the next day I get it. And it's not because I'm a great woman of faith. It's just because God gave it to me. It's not my working. Does that make sense? So in that moment, when I said why, I thought to myself, but God brought you here to find out that you're sick. Brought you here where there are much more facilities, more healthcare, affordable. Because in Canada, I didn't pay a cent to anything. I had a they call it the kidney dialysis machine. It was delivered to my home with supplies. With supplies, right? I would be sitting in my home emailing for the supplies that are missing. They will come on time, right? I had a nurse who would come and teach me how to do this. Like I had like a whole week at the hospital to be taught how to do dialysis at home, right? Of course, I was not when I was 22, I was not looking ahead that I'll get dialysis and kidney transplant. And so all of this was not in my mind. But what was in my mind is that I could have been back home studying medicine, not knowing, not taking medications. And med school is not a joke, right? So I would be out since morning, one day at the DR, the other day I'm at the lab. Like I would have 2, 3 labs per day. My testing were so hard. I would just spend a whole day for just one test, microbiology test, the lab one, right? The reason I'm mentioning all these things that require energy and effort is someone with chronic illnesses. Those are not necessary. This is not necessarily a good lifestyle. You need to, well, if you go from here and watch Anna's podcast, which is coming soon, her and I will be talking about chronic illnesses and how we navigate them. And something we said is, I like to reserve energy. I have a transplant, I'm fine. But let's say I had a podcast with you today and someone says, Sabreen, can we do our recordings today as well? So now I know I have 2 podcasts, right? If someone at my home say we're going out for fun today, I have to choose between those 3 activities. Okay. I have to cancel something that's, even though I have the time and effort to do it, I rather not exhaust myself because I know better. Does that make sense? So at that time, I was thinking, thank God I'm here because I found out, right? This is not the best situation to be in. It's not something I want to be in. And when I said I was in denial, there's something else. It was also acceptance. It was a mix of acceptance. What I've seen, what I was thinking of is more acceptance at that age than denial. It was like, this is my fate. Because as a Muslim woman, I just believe that you're giving this body, you're giving this life, right? It's a privilege, right? So this comes into it. Who am I to decide this is the evil? This is the worst thing that could have happened to me. Who am I to decide that? I know nothing, right? So the moving on with life came from there. I know I mentioned the denial, but later on, as I aged, I realized that that was good, but I should have given myself moments to grieve and process what I'm going through physically as well. Acceptance does not mean uh, neglecting yourself as well, right?
I like that. I like
Yeah,
that, and I agree with it.
thank you.
In regards to that, now, I think that's very mature way of seeing and understanding and acknowledging what you're going through, because I would like to think a lot of us wouldn't be that way. We'd be feeling all our feels and just feeling some sort of way. But then you accepted it. You found the silver lining. I'm in a country that can afford me the knowledge to understand what is going on and provide me with the medical aid. Fantastic. But you didn't have a good relationship with your body.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like two sides of the same coin where you appreciate it's a privilege, but
Mm.
I don't want to look at myself. How did that manifest itself, and how did you manage to have an attitude of gratitude for the life you have, with, regardless of what limitations you may have, but you couldn't look at yourself? Was there a sense of, was that the part of grieving that you wasn't doing, that you wasn't acknowledging, or was it something else, do you think?
So, the not good relationship with my body comes from the fact of beauty standards. Um, from me as a child, not being told you're cute, you're beautiful, etc. Because, which I think I'm beautiful now. I just don't want
You
anyone
are.
think to think I hate myself. But it was just the common thing in Sudan to think of the people who have uh, darker shades and certain hair type, which you know this, uh, to be less beautiful than their peers who have, longer hairs, blah, blah, blah. It was funny to the point, I'm a hijabi now. It was funny to the point I did not see myself acknowledge my look, to the point where I thought I have short hair when I don't have short hair. It's just I have shrinkage. Everyone who's black will understand. So it was coming from there, and from the fact that I also traveled to an Arab country in which I was the black. So Sudanese are the blacks of the Middle East. So it was always like having friends who just think I'm not that pretty because of my color or my hair type, and trying to be nice and telling you, but you can read between the lines. And I'm not going to call myself wise. I don't call myself this anymore. The 20 something used to call herself wise. I call myself someone who feel other feelings. Like, I'm sitting with you, I can read your feelings. Not reading, but I feel them, right? So if someone is lying to me, doesn't like me, giving me a look, blah blah, blah, I sense it, you know. And I wouldn't say it bothered me, because I have this acceptance and faith in God and everything. It's just accumulation of all of that made me think I'm not the beautiful girl, and this is not a good thing for any woman. I lacked confidence, right? And I was always told by members in the family and some friends that I'm fat. Which, by the way, you can see me this when I was like way, 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 way thinner than now, right? So I was always on a diet that's failing. I love food. I appreciate food. Food is like one of the pleasures in life. I love eating food. I can talk in this podcast for hours about food, and you will
Please
listen.
don't. Please don't. I'm not changing it to every food podcast. It's not happening. I'm sorry.
I enjoy food to the point where, let's say I'm sitting eating, the other person would get hungry. That's how much I appreciate food.
Let's
So
move on, because I'm getting hungry. So let's not talk about food.
okay. So it was coming, the not good soul relationship. It was because I was criticizing myself and trying. So I'm a achiever, right? Etc. So I'm always trying to grow in every area in my life, how I look, how blah blah blah. I'm always in this run to do something. And and I think my body just rebelled on me. My body was like, you don't appreciate me. Sit down. Let me show you how to appreciate me. Right. So yeah, it just, this is where it came from. What was the denial with everything and not the good like relationship with body? I was just, because I appreciated where I was, I wanted to um I saw being here at that time as a chance that I need to like use, right? So I did not allow me not feeling good about myself or how I look or I'm sick or I have a migraine today to stand in the way. I basically did not care about the relationship. I was goal oriented. It's like seeing something at the end of the tunnel and you're going for it, but it was not light for me. So I was seeing something and I had to go for it. So the fact that I don't look in the mirror, blah, 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 I just make sure that I dress okay, hair covered, blah, blah, blah. It's not cold. Why? Because I need to go get my degree.
So, was it a point of you treated your body as a vehicle opposed to
Yeah.
a temple?
Mm-hmm. Definitely, that's how I treat it.
And did you resolve that feeling prior to getting your kidney transplant, or is this something that you came to appreciate about yourself after the transplant and then the rejection and then what happened thereafter?
So the transplant and rejection happened within 15 days. So it was, for me, it was one thing. That's what I'm saying. I was in the hospital for 4 days and I was supposed to leave. And then the rejection happened and they were like, thank God you're still here. So that's why it was kind of painful, because the incision site was still, um, I just had my surgery 4 days ago and I had to go into another biopsy. I was so stressed they had to give me medications to calm me down, right? Because it was painful and I was at that edgy feeling where I'm a brave woman. I'm going to own that. If you took me to any testing that has big needles, blah blah blah, I'll be sitting with this face, poker face. Poke me, do whatever, but get the job done. This is who I am, right? But after that transplant, I grew a fear of needles and anything hospital related, because I went through so much pain and to the point where my body went into shock and, you had to stop medications and everyone was around me. I thought I was dying, right? It was just pain. Literally, the way they treated me is painkillers. I was just in pain. That's how much pain I was in, right? And again, no one believed me. Even when I called for the doctors, for the nurses, it took them 10 years. 10 years. For me, it was 10 years. It was 10 minutes. And by the time they came, I was not responding, but I was aware. I was aware. Like I was crying and I was not responding because I couldn't talk because my teeth were shattering. My whole body was I was shaking to the point where I was like leaving the bed, right? And I was crying because I was asking for them to comfort. But like in that floor, I was one of the young ones. So the young ones just complain. They're not in actual pain, right? I asked the nurse after I left. I said, why? And she said, because the experience we have is the young ones only complain. And I said, well, after that, they came every hour without me asking. They were like, yeah, they were scared of losing their jobs. I was like, yeah. Accepting my body happened after the transplant. After the transplant, I was still trying to lose weight. Can you imagine that? When was it? It was a couple of months after, like not even here. I started fasting, which I'm not allowed to fast, by the way, intermittent fasting. I stopped when the doctor said stop. My Sudanese doctor. I lost like 10 kilos. Can you imagine? And it happened when I was I was looking in the mirror and I was happy that my belly is getting flatter. And when I was looking, I noticed like I have a poem about this. I'll send it to you.
If you know
Um,
it, you can recite it here if you want.
sure. It's not a long one. So I was looking at myself in the mirror and I realized that I'm in love with my scars. So I'm going to describe the scars. I have a longest scar for the transplant, a dot for where was the catheter at, and I did a couple of surgeries, by the way. There's a surgery in my tummy for the catheter, and the catheter I did PD dialysis. The catheter is just a tube coming out of your body. It was very scary to see it. Um, and then I have a couple other. There's a little line. I don't know what they did with that line, but the way they do the catheter and even the transplant is they need cameras. So I have like two dots, right, and then a small line, and then a longest scar. Yeah, so I was looking at them, and they were changing colors. At the beginning, they were red. They became purplish color, and now they're like slightly darker than my body. And I was looking at them. I remember before the transplant, my mother asked me if I will have big scars, and I said I don't know. And then I realized that I don't care. And I didn't know why until I saw them after, like at that time, because I was so scared of looking, because I was all the time thinking I might go back to the hospital. Like I need to take care of myself. I like even the way I moved, right? So when I looked at them and I just felt like, oh, they're so pretty. I love them, because they're just were signs that I survived. That's so cliche to say, but it was true. I felt at that moment. And I was thinking, oh, thank God my tummy is getting flatter. And I was like, how dare you? This body has like done so much and you still don't appreciate it. This is wrong. It's just wrong, you know? I don't want to cry. So here's the poem, which is not just a couple of verses. It says, oh, my scars are glorious. They form a path within me, filled with gold, lights my inside with hope. And then I did some art, which you can see it. It's not an actual art; it's just how I see them, right? Um, I just wanted to honor them, and from that moment, I don't think I cared how I look. A certain day, I I just I just loved my body because it went through so much and it still stuck with me. So I'm just grateful.
That is really powerful. And for anyone that wants to know the picture, it's basically from what I saw, it was very much like how she described one longer scar, another one, and then the dot. So I'm sure she's probably got on her social, so you could probably go and check it out. But I think your honesty is really refreshing because I think so many of us go through so much, and having a chronic illness oftentimes is an invisible illness
Hmm.
that people don't know what you're going through, just assuming because you can still crack jokes, function to a high level, that you're okay, that you're okay to the point consistently you can perform at that level, when the reality is, yo, I can do it for a solid 20 minutes. After that, leave me alone for 12 hours to recharge. But why are you being so lazy? Why are you sleeping
Oh
so much? Are
gosh.
you a part cat? What is going on here? But we don't know everyone's situation until we have these types of conversations. Question I'd like to ask you is, you said when you was going through the transplant, you was thinking, I don't care about these degrees and stuff like that, whether you finish them or not.
Mm.
But at the same time, your appearance was something that you cared about.
Mm.
I find it so interesting that I seem to go back and forth with this, where in some sense your head's there telling you this don't make a damn difference.
Mm.
Just get yourself right.
Mm.
But then something else happens and you see it in a different light where it seems it's oil and water situation. The heart and the head will
Mm.
always be at opposite ends because the head will try and find the most efficient way to survive and just to look after yourself. It don't care about happiness. It don't care about anything that is not tangible, not beneficial for the body. It just wants what it wants.
Mm.
Where the heart, oh, I just want love. I want happiness. I want rainbows. That's not going to put food on the table. That's not
Mm.
going to keep a roof over my head. But I want it. It makes me feel warm. But you're actually freezing right now. You need to actually go get yourself some work so that you keep a roof over your head.
Mm.
But, and that's where your head and heart seem to battle with each other. And that seems very similar to how, in some instances, your head's there going, yes, this is right. And then your heart's like, but my stomach's not as flat as I want it to be. And the head's like, yo, I'm here. I'm here. I'm literally right here. I've been reconstructed. They put someone else's organ in my body.
Yeah.
Okay, it didn't work. We went again. I'm healing you. Yeah, but look at you. Look at you though. You look a bit of a donor. And at least,
Mm.
at least, at least you can criticize me. At least you can say these mean things about me because we're here together, rather than saying, I like you, but you could have fixed that up.
Mm.
How how did that happen? I'm not saying anything bad about it because I know I wrestle with a lot of things like that. I don't carry the same energy with one thing as I do other things. I own that. But I'm just curious to know how you've gone from I don't have my PhD and that's okay because I'm going through this and there's more to life than this
Mm.
in this situation. But my body,
Um, the feeling, the body situation, I attach it with health because I always feel like I'm at peace and to take care of myself. And the transplant, I need to lose weight. That's my brain telling me that, which is somewhat the truth. You need a healthy lifestyle, right? It's not always achievable. I mean, it could be achievable. Um, it it just the flatter stomach and all of that happened after I left the hospital. While I was the hospital, I didn't care. I was in pain. My hands were bruised. Couldn't move them. They were green and purple, right? Because my veins are small. I don't know. They just felt. I actually do know, but no one believed me. They just kept exploding, and they couldn't find a vein for IVs, and they had to run the IV, like the medication that's supposed. One of the medication was supposed to run for 12 hours. In my case, it had to be run for 24 hours because my body can't take it. The veins can't take it. Every time they finish the dose, they had to find a new freshly vein, even when there's a vein. Sometimes it explode, and the medication itself, it was like fire going through the veins, right? So I did not actually, when I was at the hospital, um, I was just in pain all the time that I didn't care about my appearance, right? But as soon as I left and I was home and I was, because I was able to log in to this day, I'm able to log in and read my own results. So this is when I started going back to where I was before with the appearance, right? But I caught myself. I caught myself. And I have to say that I'm saying all these things not to contradict myself, but the fight between my brain and my heart, just like you just cutely described, is still going. It's still going. Otherwise, I won't be a human, right? It is still going. I still tell myself, like one day I wake up and I say, I'm not a doctor, you know? And then I remember, I don't wake up every day as a doctor, right? So I remember what I went through, and I remember that I don't want to be a doctor anymore. I don't want to live in that environment anymore. And I don't want my body to go through the hard work to become a doctor. And if I want to be a doctor, I want to be the good doctor, not the one that ignored her patients, right? So I know where I am supposed to be. Right now, I am where I'm supposed to be, right? But there's still that, there's so and so X years of your life, you worked on this goal, and it's not achieved, right? Here where comes my relationship with God, because I trust in God, right? And I still look in the mirror and think my tummy is not flat. And then I remember the scars, the beautiful ones, and I'll be like, okay, right? So I don't know. I wish for this battle to end, but I don't know when it's going to be ending, and I'm not fixated on it. I just live to do right now. I'm doing things that I want to do with my life. I am loving it. And I love the people around me. Um, so I think this is just the battle, and everything goes with it is part of life, and I'm accepting it.
If you was able to go back in time, everything where you're at right now, everything you're going to achieve going forward, the people, the relationships, everything you got remains intact. But if you could go to a time when you was at your worst in this journey, when would that be? And what would you say to yourself to push yourself through that darkest time you was in, to encourage yourself to push forward and not stop?
Oh, I have so many dark times. It has to be when I was in neuroscience, when I was a student, because I felt I felt like I was faking it. Um, I felt like um there's no end to this. You know, I was at that point where I keep working hard, no results. I accept what I'm going through. I don't make a fuss. I don't complain, right? No results, right? Also, I was going through something in the family that was totally destroying me. And at that time, the people who knew I was sick were a couple of friends at my university were close to me, right? Because at that time, I had to agree that I need help. And I need people to know that I'm taking medications and something might happen to me. And some days where I was living, I did my degree far from home. Again, why would someone? I'm so stubborn. I need my family to take care of me, but I chose to go abroad, to go somewhere else to do it. But there were reasons, and I'm glad I did it. I still applaud myself for actually taking that action. But I should have taken into consideration, other things. But that time, my brother that I mentioned knew, my sister knew, my dad. Of course, my dad knew right after I did the kidney biopsy. When I got the diagnosis, this is when I told him. He was living in the United Arab Emirates, and we had a Skype call, and I told him what's happening, and he was like, he knew, and then when my brother came to Canada, I told him. So the important people in my life knew. My mother did not. She was living back in Sudan, and I have siblings. Other siblings, young, they were so young. They were like 9 and so years old. So the people who didn't know put pressure on me, and I remember being in a call with my mom in which that call had so much pressure. I remember just screaming that I was sick and she needs to leave me alone because I can't take it anymore. Right. So that was a time where I thought things were not working out. I didn't know what to do. And for me as a person, the hardest things that could have happened to me when I was younger in my 20s is not knowing what to do. Nowadays, when I don't know what to do, I chill. I'll be like, who cares? I'll know tomorrow. you know, I live. Now I live, right? So I'll just tell myself that the things that I think matters, they don't. That what I was going through with the family, it was not my battle. And I would tell myself not to go into battles that are not mine and to focus on me more. Because if there is something I learned from this journey, is I am the most important person in my life.
100%. You said you're stubborn.
Yeah.
So you going back in time to speak to the younger, probably more stubborn version of yourself.
Yeah.
Are you really gonna listen to that eloquent speech and go, yeah, I hear you. Let me change my ways? My listeners can't see you shake your heads.
Sorry. No. No, I still won't listen. I still to this day don't listen.
So what
um,
would you have to say, or how would you have to say it for your younger, more stubborn self to acknowledge and take heed to what you are telling yourself?
honestly, in those movies, when you go back in time, usually those people have devices that are very, you know, better than the current we have. I would show myself my nights at the hospital and I would say, this is where you're going with everything you're doing. Suit yourself. I would even convince her. I'll say, this is where you're heading. Suit yourself. And those are the people who are going to be around you when this happens, because that was important.
Let's assume you can't bring the technology there. Like, we got camera phones, we can show pictures and stuff like that. But let's assume that wasn't there. But you eloquently explained, detailed what was going to happen, who was going to be there. Do you think by painting that picture with your words, that will resonate with the younger version of yourself to maybe feel like, do you know what? Yes, I got myself into a battle that wasn't my own, but I can't stop because I've got this battle that I need to fight for myself.
I can't stop or I have to stop.
You don't want to stop. The whole point is you go back in time when you're at your lowest and you feel like, handbrake on. I'm not moving. I'm sat right here. Leave me alone. But you're saying to yourself, just put your foot on the brake, take the handbrake off, and just ease forward at a pace that you're comfortable with until you're able to maintain the pace you need to reach where you need to be.
I think myself would listen, the younger self. You know why? I'm blessed with intuition. And yes, my younger self was stubborn, more stubborn than now, but I knew I was doing something wrong. I knew it was in my battle and I was stopping. I was trying to stop. And by fourth year, I stopped, like I changed a lot, right? I should have started earlier changing and actually changing and like stopping for good, right? But it's not what happened. But I think myself would listen.
Appreciate it. So if you're not going to call that an L, what are you calling it?
Restart.
Restart of your life?
not my life per se, because I loved the path. Um, it's a restart on how I look at myself. Yes, it's a restart on how I carry myself, on my self awareness, on the environment around me. It's a restart. It's more like a reconstruction, too.
Nice. And to be honest, right, there are so many other pockets of detail that I would like to go into, but I'm very conscious that you have a fantastic podcast where you do talk about your own situation because you have solo episodes every now and again. Yes,
Yes.
I do pay attention. And I would love for the listeners, if they want to know more about you and your many journeys you've had navigating different spaces and situations, to reach out to you and to listen to your story so that you can give it enough time and elaborate on the key bits of information that's relevant to you at the time. And if they want to engage with you, then they so be it. And that could be another episode. Who knows? But I just thought those bits of information was interesting to me to get to. And I'm always learning more about you because you can talk a lot about situation because you've been through quite a lot and you're quite aware of yourself. And I think that's so important. But I think you as an individual, I think you're just so amazing. You have a wonderful smile. It does help that you have a dimple, to be fair. But I just think, like I said before, you're humble, you're eloquent with how you speak and how you present information. And just being that honest is something that not many people are willing to do or be. I say that not taking away anything from my guests that have gone before or anyone else on other platforms that do this, but as a population, we kind of like to maintain the status quo, which is detrimental for a lot of people because we think everything's a-okay when really it's anything but. But we all will do whatever we need to do to keep up with the Joneses and to fake a certain status. And if you then bring the next generation in, or you're trying to educate the next generation, what are you teaching them if you're not allowing them to be their authentic self? And stories like your own, where you was honest about how you felt with your body, how you felt with your relationship with God, how you felt about your scars, how you felt about the battle with your families. That these are things that not many people would want to talk about, but we all go through some of these battles ourselves. And I'm very grateful for you to share what you shared. And the poem was beautiful. As short as it was, it still carried great weight. And I will be playing that back. I'm just so grateful to you for being who you are and arriving to the place that you are today as a human you are, giving what you give to the world. So thank you. What I will ask you is, for the next 2 minutes,
Mhm.
selfishly, unapologetically, plug yourself in anything and everything you got going on. The floor is yours.
I want to thank you first for those words. I am aware of myself, but when people talk about me this way, it encouraged me, and I don't get this a lot in my life. I've been taken for granted a lot. So to hear people like you're such an amazing host, first of all, and nice smile with dimples as well. And so it like brought tears to my eyes. I don't know if you can see the tears, but they're here. I just want to say a little honesty goes a long way for someone who needs it. When I had the rejection and they gave me the medication and I went into a pain shock, all the doctors would come back with pity eyes and be like, "It will be okay. It's a little bit of rejection." And the nurses were like scared because they didn't take care of me, blah, blah. Then this doctor who I initially hated. His background is Russian. So he came in and he said, Sabreen, you came a long way. You had chronic illness for so and so years. You did dialysis. You did transplant is good. Is it worth it to waste all of this because you can't take the medication? The medication does have side effects. Unfortunately, you got all of them. And probably this is the first dose. Let's see how the second dose go. And blah, blah, blah. And I appreciated what he said because no one was telling me the truth. Everyone was trying to assure me. I am not someone who likes assurance. I'm someone who likes facts and honesty. I appreciate it in my life. I appreciate it to the point if you, as my friend, is jealous of me, tell me. Tell me. If you, as someone I made as a colleague, don't like me, tell me and I want to speak with you. I'll keep my distance and we will live both in peace or something like that. So I think because of that, I am honest because I appreciate it and I know what honesty can do to people. Some people go the wrong path because someone was not honest to them. And I don't wish for anyone who interacts with me or who sees me to go through that, to waste. It's not a waste. Sometimes going the wrong path is fine and will reconstruct your life and you will learn your lessons. But I would rather not be that person. I don't like to choose to be that person. I want to be the person who convey the truth. And I grew up in a community in which everything has to be proper and presented in a proper way. What you said, keep up with the Joneses. But I did not appreciate it. I always loved the truth. It did not sit well with me, and because of that, I was swimming against the current. And let me tell you, it requires a lot of muscles.
And stamina.
Yes, and you can build it. You can build it. Everything in life can be learned. So just, if there's anything I want to say, just keep being who you are. This would be your biggest achievement in life.
Very true. And even though the truth isn't always beautiful, there is beauty in the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was nice. I like that one. I like that one. Ooh. But I guess as well is that if you're faced with nothing but the truth, regardless of how pretty in quotation mark or ugly again in quotation mark it is, if that's all you're faced with, then that's all you know. And then you start to appreciate it for what it is. And that's to a degree. Like when you said about your stomach not being flat, my stomach has not been flat for a good while now.
Mm-hmm.
But there are certain landscapes, certain places in the world where people look at it and think, oh my gosh, that is such a beautiful scenery.
Mm-hmm.
And there are hills, bumps, lumps, and all sorts there. Yet people want to look at me and tell me, yeah, I look bad. Yet they love that. We're not having that. We're not having that.
No.
So I am beautiful. I am beautifully crafted and shaped.
Love that.
I have lumps and bumps and whatever else because it gives me character.
Yeah.
It gives me personality. Yes, some of it could be to do with not looking after myself as much as I could do, but am I really neglecting myself of a rich life? Or am I going to be neglecting myself of a rich life because I have a rich appearance in quotation mark?
Mm-hmm.
But please tell people, what is your podcast called so they can go and follow?
My podcast is called The Lemon Narrative with Sabreen. And the concept is, since I'm a writer, if I'm writing a feature film about you, what would you tell me? And don't you worry, I would be asking the questions to, kind of write this film. I know you're coming soon, Matt. I can't wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
I'm trying to think of a fake story to give you.
You can't do that. I'll find the story. I just want to add one thing is that when you see someone and you think they figured it out in life, it's just what you said. A lot of people look at me and think I figured it out. And they don't know the story behind. I don't want anyone who's going through what I went through or did go through what I went through do not believe in themselves that they're gonna make it. That's why I share my story with all the honesty, the scars, the weight, the ugliness in it, you know. And I've shared it with much more details in many places. So I just want to send this message to my sisters and brothers, I guess, who are going through this, that they're not alone and it's okay. I don't want to cry. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say. And I don't believe in ugliness. I love ugliness. There's beauty in it. So yeah.
There we go. This episode's kind of taken me off a little bit. I don't know how we've mixed it up with the whole laughter and seriousness and so forth like that, but it is what it is, and we'll run with it. But to the listeners, I thank you. All her contact details will be in the show notes. If you ever want to check any exclusive content, feel free to follow me on Every Yell Podcast on pretty much every platform, but the main one, Instagram, because I'm there chatting a whole heap of stuff. But what I will ask you to do, actually, because I haven't really done this for the longest time, please leave a review on whatever platform you're listening to, just so other people can get a chance to listen to amazing stories like this individual's, just because hers and other people are sharing things that not many other people do share. And I have so many different type of guests on here because I believe in representation. I believe in giving everyone an opportunity to speak and to share their truths. So yeah, please do that. But ultimately, hopefully through listening to all of this, you felt something resonate with you that you can lean on, that you can pull from, that you can draw strength from, that you can help build your foundation, which you're going to build your future on, maybe, or help reconnect yourself with your family, your loved ones, whomever it may be. Whether you're taking your studies more important than you are your health or vice versa, just take it from someone who's been in a position where their body is attacking itself, has made them ask questions they may not have normally asked because they weren't going to be in that situation. But she's still here, thankfully. She's still able to give. She's paying it forward and using her time, her energy, her strength to just help encourage other people who haven't been through that situation, or even if they are going through those situations or have been through those situations, to let them know that they're not as alone as they may have thought they've been, and they can reach out to someone like her, because it is important to know that, and just be your authentic self. And that's something I do champion. It's taken me a hot minute to get there, and I hate that phrase, but I felt it was appropriate to say it. But it has taken me a long time because I don't want to accept my age yet. I'm 40, people. I'm 40. I'm embracing it. But it's taken me a long time to get there and to accept where I'm at, who I am. And I know, for instance, my children will not look at me the same way that my peers look at me as, but I endeavor to make them laugh, to smile, to embrace who they are as individuals. And the reason I do that is because I know that the world's full of people that are willing to cut people down, but also there are also filled with people that are willing to build each other up. But I don't want them to rely on anyone else other than themselves to make them feel that they are worthy of the life they're going to live. So your story has told me that outside of external factors, you know you are now worthy of the life you live. And I want my children to also know they're worthy of the life they live. And I can't thank you enough for that. That was a very long outro. I do apologize, folks, but no, I don't apologize for it. I own that. I hope you've had a great listen. I hope you enjoyed the episode as I have. And you know what I'm going to say, but just remember, there's nothing about a caterpillar that tastes going to be a butterfly. Look after yourself, stay well, and I'll catch you in the next episode.